Just be warned if you lose some brain cells.
But let me tell y'all something. I know some of y'all have been frustrated, and you've been saying, where are Democrats? Where are our leaders? Well, I'm here to tell you that we ain't never left y'all, all right? We are here. We are also going to make sure that they uphold the law. We are not going to sit around while you go ahead and desecrate our Constitution, or you look at the laws that have been passed into law and say, never mind, we'll just ignore that. Instead, we are going to be in your face, we are going to be on your asses, and we are going to make sure, you understand what democracy looks like. This ain't it. So let me tell you something, Mr. Trump. You gonna learn a few lessons from us. And I'm gonna be the first one. You and your little friend off of Twitter. Y'all about to find out, all right?
First of all, happy Black History Month. Which is American history. There's a sign back there that says Doge actually means dangerous oligarchs grab everything. Well, ain't that the truth? I am so tired of these billionaire boys and their grubby little hands grabbing at everything. Hands off our bodies, hands off our data, hands off our tax refunds, hands off our social security checks, hands off our Constitution, hands off our democracy, hands off. As a proud member of the Committee on Oversight, I'm here for some real-time congressional oversight. And you are a beautiful sight to see, and you prove that the power of the people has always been greater than the people in power. That was true in Seneca Falls. That was true in Selma. That was true at Stonewall. And it will be here true today. This is an unprecedented moment, a constitutional crisis, but we will match their energy. With unprecedented organizing, mobilizing, agitating, we will see you in the courts, in Congress, in the streets. Elon Musk is a Nazi nepo baby. A godless, lawless billionaire who no one elected. Elon, this is the American people. This is not your trashy Cybertruck that you can just dismantle, pick apart, and sell the pieces of.
And let them know, especially the Republicans, that we will not take this. We will fight back.
Fight back. Fight back.
And as I close out, because I know we've been out here for a long time, and goddamn it, shut down the Senate. We are at war. Anytime a person can pay $250 million into a campaign and they be given full access to the Department of Treasury of the United States of America, we are at war. Thank you. Are at war. Thank you. Thank you.
We are going to fight it. Legislatively, we are going to fight it in the courts. And we're going to fight it in the streets.
And I rise today, Mr. Speaker, with a to whom it may concern message. To whom it may concern, ethnic cleansing in Gaza is not a joke, especially when it emanates from the President of the United States, the most powerful person in the world, when he has the ability to perfect what he says. Ethnic cleansing in Gaza is no joke, and the Prime Minister of Israel should be ashamed, knowing the history of his people, to stand there and allow such things to be said. Ethnic cleansing has been a crime against humanity. And I stand here today in the well to denounce what was said, to denounce what the president said, to denounce the complicity of the Prime Minister of Israel, and to remind people that Dr. King was right. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And injustice in Gaza is a threat to justice in the United States of America. I rise to announce that the movement to impeach the president has begun. I rise to announce that I will bring articles of impeachment against the president for dastardly deeds proposed and dastardly deeds done. I also rise to say that the impeachment movement is going to be a grass-up movement, not a top-down. The people have got to move forward. The people have to demand it. And when the people demand it, it will be done. I did it before. I laid the foundation for impeachment, and it was done. Nobody knows more about it than I. And I know that it's time for us to lay the foundation again. On some issues, it is better to stand alone than not stand at all. On this issue, I stand alone, but I stand for justice. I yield.
Reimbursement states have been frozen out of their Medicaid reimbursement systems, including New York. And in one state, it was reported that they were blocked out of their child support enforcement, and they cannot draw down on these funds. Here in New York, we rely upon these critical services throughout our state, and these funds support health care in rural and underserved communities. They fund infrastructure repairs to fix New York's roads and bridges. They support initiatives to take drugs off of our streets, stop dangerous crime rings, and keep communities safe. In fact, last night in Arizona, 500 pounds of meth were seized thanks to federal programs that could be paused. Not only does this administration's new policy put people at risk, but it is plainly unconstitutional. The president does not get to decide which laws to enforce and for whom. When Congress dedicates funding for a program, the president cannot pull that funding on a whim. Later today, I am leading and joining with my colleagues, my fellow Democratic attorney generals, in suing this administration to stop this illegal freeze of essential funds for our state. We will not stand for any illegal policy that puts essential services for millions of Americans at risk. And we work tirelessly overnight to ensure that that does not happen. Our lawsuit will seek a court order to immediately stop the enforcement of the OMB policy and to preserve essential funding for Americans. And now, to share more about our efforts, I'd like to welcome my friend, California Attorney General Rob Bonta.
Democratic AGs across this country to make sure that we would be ready to respond to any attempt to roll back our rights. So here we are. We've studied their platforms. We've identified certain possibilities, fact patterns. We've created contingency plans. So no matter what the next administration throws at us, we're ready. We're ready to respond to their attacks. We're ready to respond to any attempts to cut or eliminate any funding to the great state of New York, as the governor outlined. So despite what has happened on the national stage, we will continue to stand tall in the face of injustice, revenge, or retribution. We will continue to protect and our most vulnerable and marginalized amongst us, because it is my sworn duty and responsibility to lead that fight, working with the governor of this great state, Kathy Hochul. This is not the time to be fearful, New York, but faithful and steadfast, knowing that I, as the Attorney General, along with my entire team, we are guardians of the law, And we are prepared, my friends, to fight back. Thank you.
She's pausing all federal funding for sanctuary cities. You want to be a sanctuary city in New York City? Guess what? You're not getting any money. You're not getting any taxpayer federally funded money because you're not following the law. And I guarantee you, Pam Bondi is on the right side of the law on this one. Just go to Article 1, Section 8, Clause 4. What does the federal government have the ability to do to establish a uniform rule of naturalization? If anything, if there's one power that the federal government has, it is to control its borders. Section 8, Clause 4. What does the federal government have the ability to do to establish a uniform rule of naturalization? If anything, if there's one power that the federal government has, it is to control its borders. Okay, so Letitia, you can get up there and say all this. Oh, you were preparing all the time. You knew this was going to happen. You bet you knew it was going to happen. That's why you're so scared. You're going to lose your money again. Well, guess what, Letitia? You can't actually fight this one because the federal government doesn't have to give you money if you're not actually following the law. In fact, I think that Pam Bondi ought to be able to put you in the slammer because you're really not following the federal law. You're actually in complete defiance of it. So sure, she's taking away your money because you're out there saying, I'm going to do what I just damn please. New York law has laws that protect immigrants with limited cooperation and limit cooperation with federal immigration enforcement efforts. Those laws should be followed by law enforcement and officials in our state. I'll always uphold our laws and protect immigrant New Yorkers. She's making it very clear. Oh, she's been preparing for this day. Well, you know who else has been preparing for this day? Pam Bondi. And you know what else? Pam doesn't have a lot of love for Letitia, shall we say. She knows darn well that Letitia, 1, is really bad at her job. 2, deliberately went after Donald Trump with the intention of bankrupting him. And 3, doesn't care 2 bits about her city. There she is standing up there. I, Letitia James, I will protect everyone. I will stand in the way of Donald Trump. Here's Pam.
I think in New York, to specifically talk about New York and to talk about Attorney General Letitia James, instead of sitting in a courtroom going after Donald Trump on bogus civil fraud cases, she should be out on the streets of New York with all of law enforcement. She's the chief law enforcement officer in New York. She should be out there condemning this, stopping this, calling for the arrest of these people who are vandalizing police cars. There are cameras all over New York City. They can catch these people. Look what Mayor Giuliani did to clean up New York, Manhattan, when he was mayor. She could be out there in the entire state and at all these college campuses saying, if you don't stop this, we will arrest you and we will charge you. That's exactly where I would be. And that's where she should be. And it makes me so mad because all of these Jewish students are at peril right now. Just what you said. You know, I don't know if these students who are praising Gaza, if it's just ignorance on their part, right, what they're doing, if they don't understand. But if you have the chief law enforcement officer, meaning Tish James, out there condemning it, saying this has got to stop, we've got to protect our Jewish students as well as the Muslim students, say that, then it would stop. But nothing is happening to stop this. And people are,
because Letitia James actually has no respect for the law, or maybe there's something else going on, which is actually really darn scary. Tish James, I have a feeling she's going to go after Ilhan Omar, and she's going to go after AOC. And she's going to be able to go after these ladies because they, too, are standing in the way of justice. In fact, AOC is out giving a seminar on live Instagram or TikTok or whatever she uses, telling everybody how they evade.
Because what you can do is protect people. The slower they operate, the less they can break. You hear me? This is why this is strategically important. The slower they operate, the less they can break. And so, know your rights. If ICE comes to your workplace, if ICE comes to your door, you do not have to open the door. You ask them.
Law, and not to be outdone, you know, if AOC actually spoke Spanish, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, if she actually spoke Spanish, she might have actually been able to do more of a service to people. Anyway, Ilhan Omar is going into the full language thing on her version, and she's saying the exact same stuff. Okay, so here you see, how do you advise people, like what should they be doing if they're here illegally? And then she goes on about how you basically need to evade and avoid ICE. If ICE attempts to question you, she says, well then what do? You slow them down, because this is the answer. You're not obligated to answer their questions. It's the same exact BS that we heard from AOC. And so again, they're trying to stand in the way. That's their thinking here. If they just oppose, somehow that's actually going to do the trick. And I'll tell you this, it won't. Because you can't have a system where the states think they are their own countries. Hey, New York, if you want to defect, if you want to become New York all on its own, Donald Trump will tariff you to death. Good luck with that one. Hey, maybe you can join Canada and you can all pay 25%. There's a moratorium. I'm getting too excited, you can see. Clearly. There's a moratorium. I'm getting too excited, you can see. Clearly. I like the idea that New York just leaving altogether. Can we just get rid of them? They can join Canada and we'll tariff them.
The availability of federal funding. We write to further remind you of your obligation to comply with New York state law. So it sounds like she's picking and choosing which federal laws to comply with here. What do you think about this, Riley?
Yeah, I think your analysis is correct. When you have an attorney general tell her entire state to not comply with federal law, she is no longer acting as an attorney general. Let's call it what it is. She is an activist at that point, which I don't think this comes as a surprise, considering how she treated President Trump and other issues, of course, over her tenure. But this just shows me that November 5th taught the Democratic Party nothing. The majority of Americans wholeheartedly do not support the gender transitioning of minors. That was made very, very clear at the ballot box. So to continue on with this messaging, to continue to quite honestly, in this case, violate federal law, I believe it shows either their ignorance, maybe their apathy, maybe fighting for a system that rewards those who move to tear it down. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but it's clear nonetheless that November 5th taught the Democratic Party nothing.
And you gotta ask yourself, really and truly, what are they thinking? Like, you know, you can be a pretty empathetic person. You can be a pretty sensitive person, and, you know, I don't think that leads you to, okay, let's have a 12-year-old change their gender. We had a young woman on this program who made that mistake. She changed her gender. She said to me, you know, I'll never, ever be able to breastfeed a baby because of these decisions that were made when I was 12. And the doctors bullied her parents. She was struggling with mental health issues, and the next thing you know, she lost her breasts. And then she woke up and said, you know what, this doesn't make me feel any better. Because you see, to use the Democrats' expression, there's a root cause of the pain that's going on, and it's called mental health in her case. And maybe there's some 0.0001% of the population that really has this condition, okay? I'm not going to dispute that. Well, guess what? They can make that decision for themselves when they're 21 years old. Even give it to them at 18, but some 12-year-old, are you kidding me? And while simultaneously you're gonna leave women in the dust because you're gonna have men that think they're women beating them in athletics? I mean, what is the world coming to? I mean, I consider myself a pretty normal person, but apparently I'm some right-wing nut job according to them. Myself a pretty normal person, but apparently I'm some right-wing nut job according to them, because I just think that, you know, girls' sports should be played by girls, naturally born females when I say girls. So
So this is just all messed up. I mean, it's really kind of unbelievable where this keeps going. I mentioned empathy, and we're going to get to that because did you know that Captain America has a new superpower?
New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy. President Trump's border czar Tom Homan has issued a stark warning threatening to prosecute New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy after he suggested that he was sheltering an undocumented migrant in his home. During a broadcast on Fox News' Hannity, Homan stated that if Governor Murphy is knowingly harboring and concealing an illegal alien, it constitutes a violation of Title VIII of the United States Code. Homan added, "I will seek prosecution or the Secretary will seek prosecution. Maybe he's bluffing, but if he's not, we'll deal with it." He made it clear that he would not let the comments slide. The confrontation comes after Governor Murphy implied during a recent interview that he had allowed a female migrant to stay in his home, specifically mentioning that she lived in a space above his garage, and taunted the federal authorities with a remark like, "Good luck to the feds coming in to try to get her." Murphy's office later tried to clarify his comments, with a spokesperson insisting that the governor was referring to a legal resident within his circle of friends, who expressed concern about President Trump's impending return to the White House. The clash underscores the deepening partisan divide over immigration policy. While Homan and his administration are focused on a hardline approach to illegal immigration, critics argue that such measures could strain relations with states and complicate efforts to reform the system. As these debates continue to heat up, all eyes remain on both federal and state leaders to see how they will navigate the increasingly polarized landscape of immigration enforcement and border security.
When I say, who's the master, you say,